Live at the conclusion of another Ohio State win. This one was the Big Ten opener. The Buckeyes were tested by the Spartans, and at the end of the day, the Buckeyes passed the test.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a live postcast after Ohio State's 38-7 win over the Michigan State Spartans. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And this postcast is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Big Ten opener was one thing we have been waiting for quite a long time, as Ohio State's non-conference slate this year was pretty weak, with Akron, with Western Michigan, and Marshall being the schools that Ohio State played in the first 4 weeks of the season. A little bye week thrown in there. And here we are in week 5. The Buckeyes really have not been tested by anyone this year. The Big Ten opener is against a solid Michigan State team. The first time Ohio State goes on the road, this in a loud, somewhat hostile environment, 75,000 strong Spartans fans cheering against Ohio State. And what did we find? They were tested. Offensively, they were tested. Defensively, they were tested. And the Buckeyes passed the test at the end of the day. The final score, 38-7. There's a lot of great things that Ohio State did here. And one of them was not backing down when Michigan State started pushing things around, started doing some things offensively. Defensively, Ohio State was giving up some plays, some chunk plays. I think Aiden Childs completed his first 12 or maybe his first 13 passes in the game. And we're sitting here watching the game saying, defensively, we think y'all can stop this. But maybe y'all can't stop this at this point in the game. But what did we find by the offense? The offense was doing some good things. Will Howard made some mistakes that he normally doesn't make. There were some questionable play calls as well, but Ohio State still found a way to pass the test. If you hold a Big Ten team to only 7 points, you're doing something right in a big way. If at the same time, via time of possession, Ohio State had the ball for over 35 minutes and Michigan State had the ball for 24 minutes and 19 seconds, you're also doing something right. So there's a lot of great things that Ohio State did in this game. And Ryan Day and Jim Knowles challenged the Buckeyes defense at the end of the Marshall game. Didn't name a silver bullet of the game, and I do think that was something that was a challenge to the entire defense. Yeah, defensively, Aiden Childs did a lot of good things at the end of the day. Aiden Childs, 13-19, 167 through the year. He threw a touchdown. He threw an interception, 68% completion percentage, which I believe is his highest on the season. And so even that part there is one thing where you're thinking, Ohio State's secondary is one that we believe is one of the best in the country. We didn't expect that to happen today, but it didn't matter. They didn't get rattled. They didn't fold. Michigan State was getting chippy, pushing guys after the whistle. If you ran the ball on their sidelines, they were chirping a little bit. They were definitely acting like a team that was trying to upset one of the best teams in the country. And Michigan State is not in that realm at all. They're a solid team. They're defensively, they did some good things. But on the ground, Ohio State this evening, as I'm still kind of trying to get back into things, as this is a night game, and I ain't got no energy drink with me, so bear with me. We're going to have a whole lot of fun reacting to this thing live. Right now, it's about 11:10 p.m. Eastern time. And Ohio State on the ground. We knew Michigan State coming into the game, very solid rush defense. They were only giving up 96 rushing yards a game, 2.6 yards a pop. In this game alone, Ohio State ran the ball for 100, had 185 rushing yards, 5.3 yards a pop. At the end of the first half, the Buckeyes had 120 total rushing yards and were averaging 8 yards a pop. So the thing that was the strength of Michigan State's defense, Ohio State showed, hey, we're going to be able to find a way to overcome one of your strengths with one of our strengths. Now, in this game early on, I definitely thought that Chip Kelly was calling way too many passing plays. And even in the moment, you throw these bubble screens or smoke screens or tunnel screens, whatever you want to call them. I'm thinking, why are we using that to run the ball and make an extension of the run game when you got Quinshon Judkins, when you got Travion Henderson. You can even use a little RPO or maybe design QB run with Will Howard. Now, specifically, that has to come at the right time. That is not something you could just say, oh, it's 2nd and 8. We're going to run the ball with the quarterback. Like, that's not something I think Will Howard has in his bag. He can do it, but at the drop of a hat, I don't think Will Howard is that guy. But I do think Ohio State has guys all over the place. Defensively, Caleb Downs, Lathan Ransom, Tuimoloau, Sawyer, Hancock, all these guys on defense. And then offensively, Jeremiah Smith. Oh, my goodness. I want to talk more about him later on. But that catch on the sidelines, the Will Howard threw that ball was one-on-one. Actually, 2-on-1 eventually. One of the defenders had his hand right there in old boy's face mask. It reminded me about how old Ruben Patterson, who was a self-proclaimed Kobe stopper, which he was not, but it reminded me about back at that time, Ruben Patterson and other guys that guarded Kobe Bryant literally put their hand right there in Kobe Bryant's face. And those of you watching the YouTube right now live, you see exactly. You can't see nothing. Jeremiah Smith somehow came down with the ball one-handed. I don't know what he did. Is he Houdini? I'm not sure how Jeremiah Smith does some of the things on the field that he does, but it's just showing, man, he ain't normal. He's different. He's built unlike any other receiver in college football. And I'm going to go out there and just say it, man. Name a receiver that can do some of the things that he did or he is doing during their first 4 games in the sport. Name one. Maybe you say, oh, boy, down there in Alabama, he's a dog too, but I don't think he can do some of the things Jeremiah Smith is doing because Jeremiah Smith is different. And then you go in and add that pass, that dart that Devin Brown threw. We're going to talk more about that specific play later on because shout out to Travion Henderson. Pass pro for him was on point this evening. But Devin Brown threw that dart. Jeremiah Smith caught that ball one-handed, and he one-hand catch, brought it in one-handed. The left hand never came in to help catch the ball, secure the ball, none of that stuff. Jeremiah Smith is different. He helped Ohio State pass this test today as well. This kind of game opened up the Big Ten season as you go and you play Iowa next week, and then you have an away game in a couple weeks against Oregon. This is what Ohio State needed right now. Ohio State needed to be tested, needed to be pushed, needed to get a little chippy, needed to have guys from the opposition get a little annoyed because Ohio State's receivers in Ibuka or Seth McLaughlin or Tego Shabola or Donovan Jackson or whoever, receivers blocking downfield, offensive linemen driving blocks 8, 9, 10 yards down the field. Why did they need that? Because they needed to just rise to the occasion. Yeah, you don't need to score 50 points every single week to win. Yeah, that's okay. But what you need to do is realize what we did the first 3 games. That was cool. That was great at times. This is big boy ball. Everybody knows it in Big Ten play. It's very, very physical. From Michigan State, Iowa's going to be very physical and very disciplined. Oregon's going to be another physical team. It's very physical. You have to be very disciplined. And you have to go the extra mile. A to B, 4 to 6, plus 2 and pass the whistle. You got to just keep doing that. Why? Because that's what championship teams do. This ain't about just winning a regular season game against Michigan State. This is about winning the Natty this season. And Ohio State responded well when pushed a little bit when tested by Michigan State. And I'm very glad they did. Now, there were some things that happened in this game that caused Ohio State to have to weather the storm throughout different portions of the game. And I'm glad we're talking about the Buckeyes being victorious while weathering the storm there in East Lansing. This episode is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Thank you for tapping in to this live postcast after Ohio State's 38-7 win over Michigan State. So one thing we knew was going to happen in this game against the Spartans was that Michigan State was going to be physical. Michigan State was going to have a mobile quarterback. Michigan State was going to force the Buckeyes to set the edge, to be very disciplined, to defend the Spartans defenders in a way that maybe Ohio State hadn't been forced to previously. And in this game, in this moment, what did we find? Ohio State had to weather the storm. Now, there are certain portions in this game. Sometimes you're weathering the storm of some interesting play calls. Third and goal on the 3, and you call a pass play, I believe it was. Not really sure why. Didn't make any sense. There were times that Ohio State had to convert on 3rd down, had to convert on 4th down. They had to do a lot of great things. What did we find? Ohio State on 3rd down, 8-17. It's not great, but they follow that up with being 3 of 4 on 4th down. So even if it's 4th and 5 and you score a touchdown, or if it's 4th and 3 or 4th and 2 and you got a QB sneak, whatever it is, these are moments that are great teachable moments. Now, that 4th and 5 that ended up being a touchdown later in the game, that was one where I was thinking, that 4th and 5 play, that may not have been something that in that moment Ohio State said, we could just kick a field goal and take the points and just be happy. But they may have been looking into the future. They may have been saying there could be a big game down the road. And in that moment, in the big game down the road, that 4th and 5 could be crucial. And Ohio State could look back and say, remember that time at Michigan State? It was 4th and 5. And some of y'all may have been saying, just kick the field goal. But then some other your teammates were saying, hey, believe in us. Believe in us. We can handle this. We got this. Well, that belief you had there on that 4th and 5, and everybody went on the field together as one in a unit that was in unison, and all of a sudden y'all scored? This is 4th and 5 in the Big Ten Championship. That mentality you had back then to that 4th and 5, you need that same thing now and then some, because now if you get this 4th and 5, you're securing a win, or you're going in to win the game, a walk-off touchdown. That's what you need. Now, also, keep in mind, Chip Kelly and Ryan, they've been coaching for a long time. They realize in the moment you're thinking about that game, not that game down the road, but you're thinking about that game. And so I understand that psychologically, it makes sense to, hey, we can on this 4th and 5, we don't have to be aggressive here. We just kick the field goal and take the points. But maybe in that moment, that is the jam, that is the move. You just want to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and do that thing. We're going to go ahead and win here. Defensively, though, and I wasn't sure how I was going to handle this situation, but defensively, it definitely seemed like Ohio State secondary had some issues with the mobility of Aiden Childs. The offensive line at times was doing a pretty decent job of pass pro and not allowing the Buckeyes rush to get to Aiden Childs. Now, as the game went on, Charles Huff, the Marshall head coach, actually made a good point about the Buckeyes defense. He's like, they just lean on you. And they lean on you and lean on you. Then all of a sudden, you feel that weight of the defense, and then it's just over. Not word for word the things that he said in the press conference after the game, but I do think that kind of happened today against Michigan State because Aiden Childs was playing some decent ball. Michigan State was in the moment was playing in a way that kind of shocked you. But as they just leaned on you, they leaned on you. What do you find? Not only Aiden Childs, but Michigan State for the game, 16-25, 199 through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Both the touchdown and interceptions were thrown by Aiden Childs. So the backup came in, didn't have any success. Michigan State couldn't run the ball. 47 total rushing yards, 1.9 yards a pop. And so even the success in the first half that Michigan State had offensively, it wasn't long sustained success. It would be kind of rare if Ohio State didn't hold teams to scoring a touchdown. I mean, that's kind of one thing that you would kind of expect every now and then, because these are big boy ball. The fact that Ohio State has only given up 3 touchdowns in 4 games total, but those came in back-to-back games, game 3 and game 4. That's kind of a luxury. And so the fact that this game, when tested, when pushed, Ohio State answered the Big Ten test, answered Michigan State's test, but also only gave up 1 touchdown, that's a luxury. So we're finding that Ohio State is rising to the occasion. They were challenged in this game, and they're saying, oh, you can challenge us, you can push us around, you can try to be a little bit more physical, but we're not going to back down. Now, the Jeremiah Smith plays, and I can even go to Emeka Egbuka, that catch that he had, I believe it was on 4th and 5, and he ran at the sideline touchdown, or Quinshon Judkins and Trevion Henderson doing a phenomenal job on the ground. Henderson had 9.9 yards a pop. Judkins had 4.9 yards a pop. Quick side note before I get to the receiving game. At what point will Judkins have double the amount of carries of Henderson? Because I get that Henderson's been around longer. There's a love affair with Henderson. Also, Henderson's a good back. I'm not saying that the love affair is the same thing it was last year or the year before that. But Judkins is a better back. We don't need numbers to tell us that. Our own eyeballs, when we watch the game without knowing the stats of the players, our own eyeballs tell us Judkins is the best back. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be Henderson getting 10 carries or Judkins being 20. But if you're running the ball 35 plus times, why not do that? It doesn't make any sense to me to not do that. There was even a time, was it maybe 3rd and goal on the 3, or it was third and short. You're on a QB draw with Judkins even on the field? I don't care what y'all believe about Will Howard. Put the rock in number one's hands. Put it in his chest and let that boy scoot through past the first down marker, because that's what he does best. Now, Jeremiah Smith. So his numbers today are one thing. Receiving numbers, that is. 5 catches, 83 yards, 1 touchdown, a long of 27 yards. He was targeted 7 times. Emeka Egbuka, 7 catches, 96 yards, a touchdown. He was targeted 11 times. Also added in 2 drops. But one of the best things about the Ohio State receivers is not just their ability to catch the ball and then not drop, as the Buckeyes only had 2 drops all day on 40 pass attempts that Ohio State had in this game, but everybody getting yards after the catch. Egbuka had 37. Tate had 35. G. Scott Jr., who got another start this weekend, he had 26. Quinshon Judkins had 12 yards after the catch. I mean, these guys are very, very, very solid, but none of them shine in the same way as Jeremiah Smith does. You saw old boy out there doing the thing, and a week after, Marshall got an interception. When Will Howard threw the ball to Jeremiah Smith said the split was too wide, which impacted the route that he ran, which impacted that ball being thrown as an interception. Jeremiah Smith followed the day up with, we're not making that mistake again. Jeremiah Smith, he throw the ball up to me. He believes he can win in a one-on-one contested situation. He did that not once, but twice, one-handed in those moments. And Jeremiah Smith is showing everybody he's the real deal once again. Now, I believe he's 3rd all-time for freshmen receiving touchdowns at 5, tying Garrett Wilson. I know that Chris Carter holds the records. Those are going to be shattered this year. And Jeremiah Smith is not shying away from the moment, not shying away from showing everybody he's got the goods. And it don't matter if it's Will Howard or C.J. Stroud or whoever the Ohio State quarterback is who will be playing past that would have loved to play with Jeremiah Smith, or future, Julian saying maybe next year that's playing with Jeremiah Smith. If you're the quarterback at Ohio State and Jeremiah Smith is on the ball and you need a quick catch, throw the ball to him. He's going to make that thing happen. He makes plays. He made plays today. He's going to make plays next week, the week after that, And throughout the rest of this season and the rest of the time he's wearing that scarlet and gray, he is going to make plays because that's what he does. And Jeremiah Smith is so unreal when he's on the football field. I'm watching the game, you're watching the game, but we're audibly saying, how did he make that catch? You ain't normal. Homie, you're doing things that are unreal. We've watched a lot of Ohio State football, and we watched Marvin Harrison Jr. over the past few years do things that were so unorthodox. We're thinking, how did he do that? He had a catch against Indiana at one point where his left foot was out of bounds, but still in the air. It was further to the ground than his right leg. All of a sudden, he catches the ball. He literally pulls his left leg up. His right leg goes down, simultaneously hits the inbounds part of the field, catch that ball, first down. And we marveled at Marvin Harrison Jr. We're doing the same thing with Jeremiah Smith. As a true freshman, if Smith is making wilder catches, or just as wild, maybe wilder catches, than Marvin Harrison Jr. did. Route Man Marv was unreal. Jeremiah Smith is going to be better. And I'm saying that right now about a true freshman because it's true. What's also true is there's two guys that shined, one on offense, one on defense for their play in this game. We'll unveil our offensive and defensive players of the game as the Buckeyes postcast rolls on after Ohio State's 38-7 win over Michigan State. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's so good. Let's clear it up and say it one more time. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All the action goes down in two places on the FanDuel Sportsbook app or at FanDuel.com. Download the app or go on the website on your computer and have some fun. Thank you all for tapping into this live postcast after Ohio State's 38-7 win over Michigan State. The Buckeyes passed their first Big Ten test of the season in the moment. They had to weather numerous storms, some storms offensively. Will Howard's boneheaded interception. Not really sure what he was looking at because there was a defender there, and another defender came into the frame. And I'm even thinking, who are you throwing the ball to? Because I saw Abuka, but Abuka wasn't open. He was clearly covered very well. And all of a sudden, you can catch the ball. No, you can't, because I made a really boneheaded decision. And I was planning on making that little boneheaded decision the middle segment, the title of the middle segment, but weathering the storm made more sense. That's exactly what Ohio State did. And there are a couple players. Let's go defense first. Went offense first last week. Let's go defense first this week. There's a guy on defense transfer, and his presence was definitely felt today. Ryan Day said a lot of times during fall camp or during spring practice, certain guys' presence was felt. Now, not physically feeling you or physically hitting you, but their presence was felt. And Caleb Downs today, his presence was felt. As you see here on the YouTube, 6 tackles, 3 solo tackles, and 1 tackle for a loss. He was a man on a mission, and he helped set the tone for the Buckeyes defense in this game. Early in the game, first drive, there was a couple players, and I'm thinking, Sonny Styles, what are you doing? Sonny Styles, you are a player that is really good. You're really talented, but he just got himself caught flat-footed. He moved inside a little bit. There was a run. I forget if it was the first play of the game or not. First play. Yeah, it was Michigan State's first play from scrimmage, a 19-yard run by Nate Carter, followed up with an 8-yard QB keeper for Aiden Childs. And in that moment, I'm thinking, Sonny Styles, you're flat-footed. Moved inside, hopped inside a little bit. All of a sudden, Nate Carter is going right past where Sonny Styles was previously, 19 yards. So the Buckeyes defense needed somebody to help them set the tone, help them set a physical nature for the game. Caleb Downs did that, not just mentally and keeping his team engaged, but also on the field physically. You remember there was a lone tackle for loss he had. he just flies in like from the free safety spot like he's at a linebacker. He comes in so quickly. He has great instincts, and bam, he's down. A big time tackle in space on third down. Bam, he's down. He was so good. His ability to tackle in space is unreal, and it showed up today. But there's one thing I saw from Caleb Downs was something that didn't show up in the stat sheet for anybody. There was a play. Caden Curry is also in on this play as well. There was a play, I think, third quarter, either second quarter or third quarter. Caleb Downs is down in the box, more linebacker depth. All of a sudden, at the snap of the ball, he almost turns around and runs straight backwards, not even at a 45-degree angle, but he almost runs straight backwards and bails and says, oh, I'm in the box now, but at the snap of the ball, I'm going back to cover the deep safety spot. Well, what did we find? Aiden Childs saw Caleb Downs dip. So Aiden Childs thought that part of the field was open. At the same time, Caden Curry gets a little rush, goes in, puts both hands up. He did not touch the ball, but he impacted the throw. Aiden Childs throws the ball over Caden Curry to the spot that Caleb Downs used to be. Cody Simon comes over, and it was almost an interception, but he couldn't hang on to it. I believe he kind of tweaked something in his back, and that play went off the field. But even that moment, Caleb Downs, a guy who's an impact player, if he leaves, his presence is so important that, vacant area. I want to throw it right there. Well, if Caleb Downs wasn't making plays, first off, guy leaves, but who was leaving? Was he replaced? He was eventually. But Aiden Childs said, hey, man, he's gone. I'm going to go where it was not. Caleb Downs, defensive player of the game for Ohio State's win over Michigan State. The offensive player of the game, I mean, I've kind of talked about him numerous times today. I kind of went back and forth between him and another player, but it is Jeremiah Smith, 6 touches, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was a man on a mission today. I believe he had his first rushing touchdown as a Buckeye in this game as well. That came basically on the end around or reverse around the right side, 19 yards, went to the end zone, touchdown. They call him JJ, and JJ is a dog. Well, I'm going to have to find some more creative ways to talk about Jeremiah Smith because all the things I normally would have said about Marvin Harrison Jr. or Mecca Buka or Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave or Njigba, like all those types of things I would have said about those guys, they are things you can say about Jeremiah Smith, but he's better. I mean, he's better than Njigba. He is better than Olave, better than Wilson, better than Routman Marv, better than Ibuka, better than fill-in-the-blank Ohio State receiver from any team in the history of the program. Jeremiah Smith is better. Jeremiah Smith has showed everybody that he is a real deal. All the things that were said about him in high school, before he committed to Ohio State, and then after he committed to Ohio State, in the spring practice, in the summer workouts, and in fall camp, all of them are true. He is better than advertised, and Jeremiah Smith once again showed that today that he is a real deal. If you're trying to stop him, you better put 2 guys on him, maybe 3. Because we saw both times he made them catches, there was 2 guys there. They couldn't stop him. One homie even had his hand right there in his face mask. It didn't matter. Jeremiah Smith made the catch, and I gotta find a nickname. I didn't give Routman Marv his nickname. Occasionally I called Garrett Wilson GW. I could have called Chris Olave CO2. Didn't do that. That would have made a whole lot of sense. Travion Henderson's Easy Trey. Quinshon Judkins Q. Like, there are some that just go with your name. Now, Jeremiah Smith, I could call him JS. So it doesn't feel right. He already has one from people call him JJ. I got to figure out something with Jeremiah Smith in the number 4. I'm not really sure what it'll be. Stay tapped in the Locked on Buckeyes every Monday through Friday, and then the postcast after games throughout the season, because I want y'all, those attending this right now, those watching this right now, to understand and realize that nickname came here from Jay Stevens, the host of this podcast, because we want to make sure we keep things in-house and original. Jeremiah Smith is unreal. He's insane. He is so good. He's so much fun to watch. He's the offensive player of the game for Locked on Buckeyes, and he is the Locked on Buckeyes. Caleb Downs is the Locked on Buckeyes defensive player of the game for Ohio State's 38-7 win over the Michigan State Spartans. Thank you for making this Locked On Buckeyes postcast a part of your college football experience here on a Saturday. For your second listen, find Locked On College Football. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin not only gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron, but keeps you tapped into everything going on a college football Saturday. Find Locked On College Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. We're up out of here after another Buckeyes win. And what's the best thing about being 4-0? The chance to go 5-0. We'll talk again on Monday.